What's up, beautiful people? My name is Nicky, guys. Welcome or welcome back to Unpretty. Thank you so much for being here. Today, what I want to try and give you is what we can do when people talk about us. And this is something I talk to my students about all the time because there's always like, well, Miss Geis, so and so is saying this about me, or I heard that this person was talking about me, or someone posted this very passive aggressive thing on social media. And as much as I would love to say that that only exists in the teenage world and the high school world, I think if we're being honest with ourselves, we all know that it never stops, that people don't stop talking about people. And so what I typically say to my students is what I'm going to offer you. And this comes from a ton of different people in my life, although one of these lessons that was the most profound for me came from one individual, which I'll tell you about. But I want to offer you that sometimes silence is braver. When people are talking about you, especially if what they're saying is untrue, then why acknowledge it with any of your time and your energy, right? Now, when we're teenagers, it's much harder to do that, especially if the people that are talking about us are affecting all of those that are around us, right? So in high school, especially at our school that's very small, it's easy for things to get around and get around quickly. And in the age of social media, it's easy for everything to get around quickly. And we've seen that time and time again when we look at different celebrities' lives and the things that are exposed about them, or as soon as they step out the house not looking good, that gets put on social media, right? And in this age of social media, which there are many advantages to, I love social media as a tool, but as always, a tool is what you make of it. So you can use a tool to do good, or you can use a tool to do bad, right? Or you can use a tool to do things that are neutral. But when it comes to people and talking about people, many times those things fall in the category of good or bad. And that's a whole nother segment of what's good and what's bad and all that I'll address a different time. But when people talk about us, we have to consider a few things. One, who is talking? Who is the person? Who's the they? They're talking about me. Who is that person? And when you figure out who that person is, if you figure out who it is, you have to ask yourself, do I value this person's opinion? Because if you don't, then maybe the best thing is to just be silent. Because if what they're saying about you is coming from their mouth and they're not a person you respect, honor, value their opinion, then what they say doesn't actually matter. And then you have to evaluate if what they're saying, so who's saying it, and then if what they're saying is actually true. And so if what they're saying is true, then there's a simple acknowledgement that can happen. Like, oh yeah, that's actually true. And then you move on. But if what they're saying is a lie, right? If the story that they're telling isn't true or isn't fully true, then two strikes, right? Like, first of all, I don't value your opinion. And second of all, what you're saying to me, what you're saying about me isn't actually true. So why am I going to put my effort and energy towards that thing? Now, clearly, we all know this is easier said than done. And I definitely know that. I don't want people talking about me in a bad way. I am a person who's very emotional. I take things very personally. And so if someone's saying something bad about me, that hurts. It hurts my feelings. And so oftentimes I want to be able to fight back with my words. And for most of my life, I would say, like, that's what I wanted to do. I would either cry about it, write about it, vent about it, right? But I would need to say something. And then a particularly wise person came into my life, and I happened to be going through a really hard time with a former relationship. And I told him what this individual had been saying about me. And he told me, he said, well, is it true? And I said, well, no. And he said, well, do you know your truth? And I say, yes. And he said, then why validate what they're saying with any of your time and energy? And I heard him. And obviously what he's saying is 100% accurate, but it doesn't mean it was easy. But see, I've already talked to you in this podcast about having to do what's hard. The easy thing when someone talks about you is to chirp back. The easy thing is to clap back. The easiest thing is to, get your revenge, get your come up, right? And I just had a situation at school where a student did something and they were like, well, I was trying to get my get back. And I'm like, yeah. And look where that's landed you. Now you're talking to me. Now you're in my office. You're in the assistant principal's office and I'm not happy with you. So how did your get back really feel? And see, that's something that we really do need to think about. When we seek revenge, when we seek our get back, or, our clap back, it feels good for literally a second. And then after that, if we are a person who is self-reflected and we care about what we're putting out into the world, it feels good no longer after that 1 second. Like, yeah, I got my get back. Okay, then what? Now you're just the person that stooped to their level, right? Now you're just similar to them because you decided to go and do the same thing that they did. And so I want to offer you, a few things here. One, we always have to consider the source. We always have to think about who is saying what they're saying. The thing is, if, some stranger off the street says something bad about me, it may hurt and sting, but it'll be a moment in time. If my mama says something about me, well, that's going to sting a little bit more, right? Because I actually care about what my mama thinks about me. So first, figure out what is the value of this person to you. Do they have what you want? Do they truly actually care about you? Do they love you unconditionally? Do they even know you? Right? These are really valuable questions, especially when it comes to social media. If someone's trolling on social media, if someone is just trying to get a rise out of you, please recognize that's what they're trying to do. Please also recognize that that person's life is, when you think about it, actually quite sad. With what you're doing with your life is you're going around and looking for people to try and make feel bad. Like, how low do you have to be? How crappy does your life have to be? How awful do you have to feel about yourself and about your life that that's what you're going and doing, that you're trolling around seeing who you can make feel bad? So consider the source is probably the most powerful part of this advice that I'm trying to give you that was bestowed upon me. Like, you always, always, always have to consider the source. I asked one of my friends one time, like, they have a person in their life, in their family in particular, who says different things to them like, well, why aren't you here? Why aren't you there with your life? And I said to my friend, I said, well, do you value what that person is saying to you? Like, does that person have what you want? And that's another part of considering the source. If someone's giving you advice on something that they know nothing about, or they're a horrible example of what that thing is, I don't know that you want to listen to them, right? I don't know that you want to listen to wealth advice from someone who is broke and makes bad money decisions. I don't know if you want to make health decisions from someone who is extremely unhealthy and doesn't make the right decisions for their mind or their body. So ask yourself these important questions about who is delivering the information. And if that person doesn't carry value in your life in those areas, then for sure, be silent about it. If the person is someone you value and what they're saying is true, then I think that's just some reflection that needs to be done and probably changes that need to be made. Instead of looking at, oh, that person is talking about me, consider what is being said. And if what is being said is false, if it's inaccurate, if it's a lie, another reason to let it be and let them do what they're going to do and you do you. But if what they're saying is true and we care about becoming better versions of ourselves, then we need to do something about it. Silence sometimes, not always, but in the case of when people are talking about us, sometimes that silence is just braver. The part where I had a hard time was I don't like people thinking bad things about me. So when people spread things and then that person tells another person and that person tells another person, or that original person is just going around and spreading these lies about you, period. Or even if it's not a complete lie, but just their version of the truth, it's going to be hard. But what I would love for you to do, and this worked brilliantly for me, thank you for the advice. What worked brilliantly for me is keeping my mouth shut. I didn't say a negative thing about this person. I let them do what they were going to do. I let them spread whatever message they wanted to spread about me. And I kept my mouth shut. Because the other part of silence is that the truth is always revealed. Always. And I can't tell you the timing of that, right? Sometimes the truth is revealed quickly. Sometimes the truth takes months, sometimes years. But the truth is always revealed. And if you've stood in your truth, and if you've stood your ground on what you know is right for you, and what you know is true and honest for you, then you always get to look at yourself in the mirror and know that I made sure to be me. I made sure to look that I could look myself in the mirror and be proud of myself. And so no matter whether you're a teenager in high school or whether you're a grown adult like myself, people are always going to talk about you. I wish I could remember this quote. I'll have to look it up and try and figure out how to get it to y'all. But there's this quote. I'm not sure. I feel like it comes from a philosopher, but it talks about small minds, mediocre minds, and great minds. And so it says, great minds talk about, ideas and resolutions. And mediocre minds talk about events. And small minds talk about people. And so consider that in yourself and in others. And instead of being someone who gets bogged down with the drama of talking about people and having a small mind, be a person who has a great mind, who ignores the things that are untrue, who changes the things that needs to be changed, and knows that sometimes silence is braver. Until next time.